This is Jimmy.
And Scott.
And this is the Lead Domino podcast powered by MDP Lacrosse. On this podcast, we will be discussing with athletes, coaches, and other professionals what specific mental techniques they utilize to prepare, compete, and recover. These are the questions that fascinate us, and we want to hear what our guests do to be their best mentally. And hopefully, you get a little something out of these episodes to help move you forward. On today's episode, we host Joe Mascaretti. Joe's a Long Island native, graduate of Hicksville High School, and played 2 years of Division II lacrosse at LIU Post before transferring and graduating from Division I Hofstra. After playing at Hofstra, he tried his hand with the MLL and spent 3 seasons with the Lizards. Joe's story is a true underdog story and relates to many people's situations in life. What's not completely relatable, though, is his response to adversity. When no one believed in him, he did. When no one thought he was any good at lacrosse, he did. When people thought he should spend his time doing something besides lacrosse, he doubled down. We do find out early in our conversation, though, that he wasn't the only one with that belief. His parents did, and it proves to be a powerful force driving him to this day. Joe currently owns and operates 360 Athletics, a strength and conditioning company, helping people become their best. I've really enjoyed my time today, learned a ton from Joe, and I hope you guys do too. Enjoy. Joe, what's up? Welcome to the podcast.
Jimmy Montana, what's going on, man? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I know a bunch of us have a little extra time, so it's working out well. We're making the best of our time here.
Yeah, finally get to do stuff like this, which we've been meaning to do for a while. So I'm excited.
I know. So let's get right to it. Let's set the context. Let's get a little background story. Where you're from, what you've done, things like that. Fill us in.
All right, so let's start with right now. I run a company called 360 Athletics where I train athletes to improve themselves. And I think starting there will let you see, the way that my origin story plays on that.
Yeah.
So right now, I work with athletes trying to make them be the best that they can be at whatever it is that they're pursuing across a wide range of sports or skills and activities. So let's take it back and see how I got to this point where I feel like I deserve to be working with you guys.
Yeah, and I think an important piece to this whole podcast is that point. Like we're right. Interviewing people from all different backgrounds, all different industries. Because basically, whether you want to be a lacrosse player or a nuclear engineer or a pilot, like it comes down to mental skills and mental frameworks and different things. So that's good. That you just want to make them the best that they can be.
Yeah, and I think that the whole mental side of thing, it started with me when I was playing lacrosse. Started playing in 3rd grade, and something hooked me. Whether it was my dad was coaching a high school team at the time, or my cousin was playing on the high school team at the time, and I got hooked and wanted to play in high school and college. And this is from like 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade.
Yeah.
And when I got into 8th grade and we're playing middle school, I ended up getting put down on the 7th grade team. And at the time, it was like the world was crashing down because I had these dreams of playing varsity lacrosse and college lacrosse, and being put down on the 7th grade team as an 8th grader isn't exactly where you want to be when your goals are set.
Well, also your everyday life as a middle schooler, like just being an 8th grader in the middle school and having to play with 7th graders, also I'm sure was pretty tough.
Yeah, that was like the most important thing at the time, and so I think it's funny because I think that was a big turning point, and actually there were several turning points following this, but at the time, rather than my parents call the school and complain or tell me maybe you want to do something different and maybe try to join a different team or a different club, my dad took me down into the basement so the whole reason I got moved down was because the coach told me that I was too slow and too weak and too small and that sort of thing. So it was like not athletic enough was the reason. So he took me down into the basement and he taught me how to work out. He took me out to the sidewalk and we traced around the block. We realized it was a third of a mile, so we'd run 3 laps around the block. And I started developing this work ethic where he taught me that, If you are not good enough at something, you figure out why not. You figure out a plan and act on that plan and execute that plan until you get to where you want to be. So, I never did end up making it back to the 8th grade team that year, but I think the lessons that were instilled in me stuck there through 9th, 10th, 11th grade.
Yeah.
And nothing changed quickly. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, all right, started working out for a week. All right, we're good. Now we're fat. Now we're strong.
Yeah.
Now we're ready to play. So it took years, but eventually ended up getting to play in high school. And
so most kids, let's say in your situation, most kids either like deny, they're in denial of like, I'm not that slow. Like Billy was slower than me. They make excuses. So can you pinpoint one or a couple things that made you like deal with the suffering, but still want to pursue your goal? Because I would say that's probably rare. That's not as common. As
it was blatantly obvious because here's the thing. Like I said, starting from 3rd grade and my dad being the varsity coach, I had good skills, but I couldn't display any of those skills because I was so slow. Yeah. And it was apparent to me because like at practice when you're in 2 lines and you start the warm up lap. They don't really do that anymore, but you used to do the warm up lap around at a slow pace. The whole team goes together in 2 lines, and I used to fall behind on that.
Okay.
And I remember like looking through my face mask at my leg, like pissed off at myself for not being able to keep up with the team during something where you're supposed to stay together, and I couldn't even stay together. So it was there was no way for me to deny the truth and the fact that I was not athletic enough to be on that team. As much as I was pissed off at the coach for putting me down, I was at the same time, it was impossible to deny.
Yeah.
And so because I had those things already, it's funny when I'm working with an 8th grader or a 9th grader now, and they look like little kids. You know what I mean? They're like, they're athletes, but they're kids.
Yep.
And I pictured myself how serious I took everything. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? It's crazy. But at the same time, being like that allowed me to kind of like accept responsibility. Right. And obviously that was because my parents guided me that way. I wasn't like,
Well, that was just the biggest piece of the story that stuck out to me was that your father didn't tell you anything. He showed you everything. And to me, that's like the ultimate sign of support. Where it's not like you have to play or you don't have to play. It's like, well, this what you want to do. This is how you're going to have to do it. And he showed you how to do it, which is amazing, which is a gift.
Yeah, like what I try to say is like because I often reference him and my grandpa as the 2 people that had like a very big impact on me. I refer to them as like a guide rather than like a dictator or a coach or a disciplinarian. They really were never anything like that. It was more they saw where I wanted to go and kind of was like, oh, hey, you come over this way. Do it like this. Oh, right. You want to go over there? All right, maybe you should try that. Yeah. And it was always my decision, but it was like guided by them, and I didn't even realize what they were doing.
Right.
But that really allowed me to go where I wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean that's the ultimate gift. It's like the gift of hope. Like here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool. All right, so now you're in high school. Right, so you never made it back to 8th grade team. So now you're in high school, and you're saying things haven't changed quickly. So where do you find yourself, like JV, 9th, 10th grade?
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was the same thing. In 9th grade, I'm sitting on the bench on the JV team, but I want to start so bad. So it's another year of work. All right, we're starting on the JV team in 10th grade, but we're not moving up to varsity. So like, there's still that little bit of like a chip on your shoulder.
Sure.
Where the work gets harder, the work becomes more obsessive and more focused and dialed in. So that you come back now in 11th grade and your friends are all getting recruited to college and going on college recruiting visits and starting on varsity, and there I was in 11th grade, sitting on the bench on varsity. I didn't step on the field for 1 second in the county finals, or in the playoffs.
Yep.
So there it is again, another chip on the shoulder, more focus, more intensity in the workout, more attention to my nutrition now, rather than just working out, realizing that nutrition and sleep are going to play a role in performance.
Right.
And then coming back to senior year and finally having a chance to play at that high school level. But at that point, it's like a little bit late in the recruiting process. But, it was like amazing that I got to finally step on the field, like where I wanted to be in 3rd grade. There I was, 12th grade, earned a starting role.
Right.
And
so in a weird way, all of that motivated you. All of that fueled you instead of demotivated you.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because back then I think I was like motivated by. It's very different for me now, and hopefully we'll have time to get into that. But back then I was motivated by the negativity and the doubt, because every time somebody said that I wasn't good enough, it was like, nah, watch this, and it forced me to do things to try to like prove. I don't know if I was trying to prove everyone else wrong or prove to myself that I was good enough or whatever it was. But for every single step, it's like it built on the previous one.
Sure.
8th grade being put to 7th grade. 9th grade not playing on JV. 10th grade not being moved up to varsity. 11th grade not playing on the varsity and having to sit the bench.
Right.
12th grade, I'm playing on varsity, but I'm not recruited to anywhere I wanted to be. Not a single Division I team.
Right.
So each one of those times, it was like I did all the work for an entire year. It wasn't like a 1 week thing or just a 1 year thing. It was 5 years straight of, trying to get someplace. And it always seemed like there was something bad going on or something that I wasn't achieving going on. But at the same time, I was building 5 years worth of working towards like improving my craft and improving the mental side of the game, the physical side of the game, all of that stuff was kind of forming without me realizing it. Because at the time, I was just chasing these goals.
Right.
But now I look back and I'm like, I was so lucky that from in those like formative years of like 14 to 18 years old, I was overcoming. Listen, it's not like real adversity, right? Like it was. Yeah, but it was just a sport.
Yeah, it's the pebble in the shoe, though. It was your adversity.
For me, it was, and for me, it taught me all these things about like it's going to take a long time, it's going to take a lot of work, it's going to take a lot of effort and focus and discipline and all of these things, and so that took us, into college, where I ended up getting to play in college,
and where'd you play?
Okay, so I was saying, I wasn't recruited anywhere in Division I wise, so I ended up going to play Division II at LIU Post.
Okay.
And so I was really grateful for the opportunity. But at the same time, I always did want to see if I could play Division I. So after my sophomore year, I had a pretty good first 2 years, and that allowed me to look to transfer up to Division I. And Hofstra, Coach Danowski gave me a chance to come to Hofstra and try out.
Wow.
And
Nice.
ended up making the team at Hofstra for the junior and senior year, which was one of the best experiences of my life.
Now, did you transfer? Well, first off, was that whole transfer, was that like a conscious plan? Like, let's say whenever you committed to LIU as a senior in high school, was that something like a mental note? Like, all right, well, now I'm in college. Now I got to keep working to transfer? Or was it just like, all right, this is where I'm going, I'm just going to work my ass off because that's what I do?
Yeah, no, that was not part of a master plan at all.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, this is the best place that I could go play. Let's go play because I love to play. I love to test myself against the highest level of competition that I can.
Yeah.
And so after freshman year, it was like, there was like a few steps. It was, all right, let's try to earn a starting spot. Okay, freshman year, earned a starting spot. Okay, let's try to be the best face-up guy in Division II. and then in sophomore year, came close to that, I think. And then it was like, well, could I play Division One? It just started the idea just started dancing around in my head. I was like,
right.
How do you think I would do it? How do you think I would do against those Division One guys? I don't know, but I want to find out.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah. I think probably subconsciously, I mean, the whole time you're working, subconsciously you're like, well, I want to play against the best. I want to test myself against the best.
And what you just said right there is exactly what I realized at the end of it all. After I stopped playing, I looked back and it was like, I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know how I would do against the best people in the whole world. I just wanted to know that. And so I ended up, it was kind of like a lucky situation how I put myself in front of Coach Danowski to see me play in the summer league game. And he saw me play in that summer league game because his son was playing on the team we were playing against. I think you were actually on that team that was on that field that day. So the next day I just drove up to Hofstra and walked into his office and I was like, hey coach, I play at LIU. I'd really like to transfer here in the fall if you have a spot for me. it was kind of weird. I can't believe that I did it actually looking back.
Yeah, right. And that was that, huh? And now when you transferred, did you have a spot? Did you have to try out? Did you have to earn it? Obviously you have to, earn your stripes, but did you step on campus knowing that you were a member of the team?
No, I went there to try out. I left LIU. I had the lacrosse scholarship there, but I left to go to Hofstra to try out because it was a unique year. There was 40 roster spots, but they were bringing back 32 guys. There was 8 guys in the freshman class. They had 3 transfers. Ryan Kelleher was coming home from Loyola.
Yep.
And then John Gorman was coming over from Nassau Community College. So the 3 of us were coming in there, all not expecting, but there was real spots to be fought for.
Sure.
So
wow. So you take a leap. Obviously, you've invested in yourself. Now, does any conversation with your father or any other mentors stick out to you looking back on it? Like, hey, Dad, I'm thinking about giving up the scholarship I have at LIU to try to go to Hofstra and play. Now, obviously, he was a huge piece of you in 8th grade, showing you and giving you hope and believing in you. So was there any equivalent, at this juncture of your life?
Yeah, there was a couple things involved. It was first of all, my mom was very concerned academic-wise, what does this mean academically? Hofstra had an exercise science program that was equal to or better than LIU's. So once she realized that, she was okay with the move.
Yeah.
There was a financial sacrifice, so I lived at LIU, and when I was transferring to Hofstra, because I was giving up the athletic scholarship in order to be able to afford it, that meant I'd have to commute. So I was willing to give up living at school and commute just to be able to play lacrosse at a higher level. So there was a few things that had to line up to even allow the opportunity to be pursued.
Yep.
And then my dad's advice was just you want to do it? Let's go. Let's do it. Let's get ready. Let's go test ourselves. And he's like, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. But you found out. You got your answer.
How cool is that?
So he was,
that's awesome.
He was all in.
That's special. That's that really is special. That's a special relationship. From him, that's a special mindset to even have. That perspective and that. Obviously, it's your son, it's your child, but really getting to that place where you can just motivate them and believe in them and show them that hope is pretty cool.
Oh, he used to write quotes down and write letters to me and leave it in my cleat and put notes up on my bathroom mirror the night of games that I'd wake up in the morning and I'd read a quote
really?
He did that from when I was in 9th grade up until I had a note in my cleat when I went to MLL training camp for the last time. the last time I went to play, I got out of. This is when I was in Toronto.
I just got chills hearing
Toronto, and my dad had a note in my shoe.
That's so cool.
Yeah, very special.
That is so cool. I just got chills.
Yeah.
All right, so before we jump to the MLL, what else? So what else went on at Hofstra?
Well,
Obviously, you
you know,
spent 2 years there.
you asked if there was a tryout or if I had a spot. And this is actually a pretty crazy story because when the team was announced after the 3-day tryout in the fall, you know, my name was on the list online. You had to sign into some portal and see if your name was on the list. So I was there. So you're supposed to report to, you know, day one of practice the next day. And so day one of practice the next day, I show up, and the first thing that we did was a weight room workout. So we go in the locker room, and everyone has a laundry loop with like your gray shirt and your gray shorts and your back stuff.
Yep.
And I don't have a laundry loop. And I'm like, you know, the equipment manager is like, they must have forgot or just must have left it out. Let me fill one out for you. So he fills one out. You know,
just
puts
more
the number
fuel
on there and
just
gives you the laundry loop and the grays. And my gray had just like a plain tag. Everyone else's tag had like their number on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, that's weird. All right, whatever. So then we go in the weight room.
Just more fuel, huh?
Everyone's got a folder with their program on it, and I don't have one. I'm like, what the hell? So the guy's like, no problem. He fills in a folder, like handwrites my name on it, and like everyone else is like labeled and printed out.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's weird. And so that stuff like that kept happening. We do like you know, an eligibility form, and everyone else is like listed on the roster. I'm not. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And so I never really I never found out if this is for sure, but I think that there was 40 spots, and I was the 41st guy that was picked, and I think Coach Danowski went to the administration and you know, fought for another roster spot and
sure.
or something like that. But I think that I did not make the team, but something happened to allow an extra spot, or I don't know. Maybe it's just me thinking that I was definitely the worst one on the team at options. So
yeah.
I must have been that 41st guy, but I feel like something happened there to I don't know. I don't know, but I always thought that was very weird.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's weird, but it just seems like everything that's happened up until that point prepared you for that moment, or those, you know, those moments where it's like, oh, I'm not on this list, I'm not on that list. Keep adding fuel. It's more fuel, because obviously to me, it seems obvious that you approached every obstacle, every piece of adversity just with like, all right, well, I got to keep working. And just, you wouldn't be distracted by all that, which to me is a huge mental skill in and of itself. Just the idea of being able to do that is incredible.
Yeah, and I don't know what did that. I don't know. I didn't like intentionally do that. It just happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you could pinpoint exactly what made you do that and bottle it, that would that could change the world for sure. And I think that's what everyone's seeking, is really that grit, that resilience, that bounce, like whatever you want to call it. You definitely had it. But I would say obviously you're gifted with parenting. Would be my number one guess.
Yeah, that is the gift.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now you're going through all of that.
So Hofstra is the exact same thing. Hofstra it's junior year. I transferred in. Everybody there is a better athlete than me. And keep in mind, this is after 6 years straight of my entire life being dedicated to training and running and lifting and squatting and doing nothing but trying to become a better athlete.
Yep.
But then I find myself at this level where I am, even with that being said, the worst athlete in the entire locker room, without question. So junior year is a fight and a battle to try to prove that I'm athletic enough to step on the field and get some time. So, I mean, I was number 2 on the depth chart facing off, and 3 days before the first game, the starting face-off guy fell running bleachers, cracked his ribs, and there I was starting that first day. I was terrified, nervous as hell.
For the season opener?
For the season opener, yeah.
Wow. So
And
you,
then
so you go from having
so
one
it was
T-shirt
like,
and folder, 2 months later you're starting on opening day.
yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
So I ended up doing okay, good enough to, when he ended up coming back from his injury, we ended up splitting time for the rest of the season, which was a fortunate opportunity for me, because then that set the stage for the senior year to play a lot and have a bigger role, and eventually, lead into the MLL following college. So it's like, there's other stories like that along the way that I kind of skipped over, because that happened at LIU too, my freshman year.
Yeah.
About a week before the season, the starting faceoff guy tore his ACL, and I stepped in as a freshman to start. And it's like, you got lucky with that opportunity, but at the same time, you harnessed that situation and took that opportunity and did well, and ran with it. You know what I mean? So it's like, was it luck? Yeah, both situations. The first time I started on both teams was luck, but because I was doing the work as if I deserved those spots anyway.
Right.
And and then when the opportunity came, I was prepared to step in and
100%
and do well.
100%. And I think that's what a lot of young athletes don't quite understand, because they go off the emotion of what's happening right now. If I'm not playing right now, I'm not going to prepare like I am a starter. So I would say 100% you need luck, because you have no control over if someone else gets injured or whatever, but you were prepared. I mean, it's very simple. It's simple yet complex at the same time. You were prepared.
Yeah.
So when luck went your way, you were prepared. When luck didn't go your way, guess what? You were still preparing. So, I mean, to me, it's the correct formula. It's what needs what needs to happen for a kid in your shoes who has no rep, didn't get recruited, basically walked on, and that's what you need.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a crazy story. All right, so now you're starting, and where does that take you?
Well, I mean, we ended up having a pretty good year. We finished the season going into the playoffs ranked number 2 in the whole country, which is pretty unheard of for Hofstra. We were like 16-1 going into the playoffs. We ended up making it to the quarterfinals and just barely missed a shot, losing in overtime to go to the Final Four. So that team was completely stacked. Like I was mentioning before, being the worst athlete in the whole locker room, I felt like I was along for this crazy ride all the way to the quarterfinals of the Division I playoff. I was starting as a face-off guy, but at the same time looking around like, do I really deserve to be here? This is insane. I can't believe that I'm on this field with these players playing against Johns Hopkins and Princeton, and that's an insane thought for me to at the time grasp. But at the same time that I thought that, I also thought, I'm going to fucking beat anyone who's in front of me in the face-off circle right now. So it's weird, this combination of like confidence in the most true, deep, like belief in myself, but at the same time looking around like, what am I doing here? Very weird how both those feelings are playing at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I talk with my athletes a lot about it, the difference between belief and confidence, and like the way I describe it, especially when you're looking to improve and you're looking really to develop into something. I always say belief is just that. It's having faith in yourself, even though you've never done something, right? So like you never, let's say, faced off in a quarterfinal game until you did. But confidence to me comes from a place of something you've already done. So if you've already done it, it's like, yeah, I can be confident. Yeah, I've dunked a basketball, so yeah, I'm good. But so to me, it's like that. It's like you believed in yourself even in 7th grade and 8th grade when you couldn't even run a lap. For whatever reason, you believed in yourself. But maybe the confidence was not there, but the belief picks up for it. And then you just become confident because the belief puts you in that situation. And then your confidence automatically just picks up. So that's always what I talk to my athletes about. So it sounds like you went through the exact same thing.
Yeah, No, I like how the belief leads to execution, and then when you execute, you develop the confidence to know that you could do it again, and it just keeps rolling from there.
Right, like you can believe but have low confidence, but you can't, like, confidence without belief is not gonna. It's not sustainable. It won't last long. He's like you
Oh
will.
yeah, because it'll get shattered.
Right, exactly. And even if you could pull it off for a little bit, it's not going to last, and it's not going to get you through tough times. So that's cool. So now the MLL.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a broken record, right? But like somehow I kept getting to the next step, but then at the next step, it's like I was the worst one there. It's very weird, but somehow I kept getting to the next step. So the MLL, that Hofstra team that I told you was pretty loaded.
Yeah.
You know, I forget, 5 or 6 or 7 of the guys were seniors and got drafted to go into the MLL that year.
Yeah.
And I did not get drafted, but the Long Island Lizards were having an open tryout for literally. It was like for anybody who wanted to show up. You could be, you know, a college graduate but didn't play college lacrosse. You could be 35 years old and trying to make a comeback.
Right.
It was literally open to anybody, and there was maybe 100 guys signed up, and everyone like would tell me like, oh, it's just like a money maker. They're trying to like make some money and do like a publicity stunt, whatever.
Right.
But they ended up inviting 3 of us from that open tryout to training camp, and
Wow.
I ended up getting to be one of those 3 guys invited to training camp to go and actually try out for the team. So somehow that happened, and there I was at training camp with the Lizards, and again thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I can't believe this. and the way the MLL worked back then, it was a 35-man roster, and 21 guys would make the team, and then like 17 guys would actually dress in the games.
Okay.
So you got to be thinking that if your open tryout, you know, person 1, 2, and 3 invited to the training camp, that your depth chart number or your roster number has got to be 33, 34, and 35.
Yeah, right.
Because they've got like 23 guys back from last year. They've got 10 guys that they drafted in the draft. So number 33, 34, and 35 is like, have fun wearing your practice penny in training camp, but you've got no shot.
Yeah.
And
right.
but the belief was there, and I went into those training camp days where, you know, back then these guys, it wasn't like, I don't know, I want to say it was like 2007 maybe, and playing in the MLL, it wasn't as serious as it is now. I feel like, but I took it like dead serious.
Yeah.
I took it as if I was going to training camp for the New York Jets.
Of course.
And so well, it seems obvious now, but I'm telling you at the time, it was like the guys would show up and kind of be hanging out in their like sandals, and I was going to bed early the night before, taking my like, you know, sleepy time tea, making sure I got 8 hours of sleep in, visualizing before bed, filling out my little journal, you know, talking to myself about, you know, what tomorrow's going to be like and how to maintain my cool when like I get a little nervous because, you know, I'm looking out at the wing and, you know, Nick Polanco is on the wing and, you know, all these like legends are on the field and who the hell am I? And so I'm doing my, you know, pre-game or pre-training camp journal. I'm waking up in the morning, you know, measuring out my perfect amount of, you know, each of my breakfast foods that's going to give me the fuel, and guys are showing up with like an egg sandwich and their sandals on. And so I was taking it so seriously, but like, do I really have a chance being that last guy on the roster? And so, anyway, let's fast forward a little bit, and I somehow made that roster leaving training camp, and I think people were kind of like, whoa, why is this guy on the team? But somehow made it, and a couple games into the season, there it was again. I was taking it as if I was going to play, though. You know, the prep.
Yep. And
the starting faceoff guy got injured again. And so there I was, finding myself starting in the MLL against Rochester Rattlers, against Alex Smith, who was the faceoff guy at the time. He was like the premier faceoff guy in the MLL at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And this was like a Thursday that we found out I would be playing on Saturday. And I there I was stepping out on the field, And it's like, I'm telling you, it was insane. Looking down, it was Alex facing off against Alex Smith. These names are like meaningless to everybody else, but Brody Merrill is on the wing. Casey Powell's on the other wing.
Now
John Grant Jr. is on attack. And I'm like, if I lose this face-off, the kid's running down a fast break, and you got Casey Powell and John Grant Jr. And if I win the face-off, Brody Merrill is about to take me down. I'm like, this is insane. What am I doing here? But somehow made it there. And so it's like you look back at this 8th grader being put on the 7th grade team, and then fast forward all the way through, and it's like, how did that all happen? It's such a long duration, but it was the same things, you know, on like a day-to-day basis, and then a year-to-year basis, and then almost like a 10-year process until I finished that. Like I played for 3 or 4 seasons in the MLL sporadically. Wow. I played in a few games. I was by no means like a freaking great player, but
yeah, but like during that time, like you said, like legends. Like what was that? The summer of 2006 or 2007?
That was
so.
Yeah, that was 2007 to 11.
I mean, the MLL formally really didn't form until like 2001. So you had like all the legends still in the league. So I mean,
yeah,
you're dropping some names, but like all those names were huge. Transformed the game, brought it to the MLL, brought the MLL to the professional ranks. I mean, that was a big deal. That was a really big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it was very cool.
I could imagine. I could imagine how you're in the face-off X going through that in your mind. I mean, that's really cool. That really is. So
yeah, and like I was saying, it was a mix of like in pregame warm-ups, looking on that side of the field and seeing all those names and thinking, "Whoa, this is insane!" But then walking out for that opening face-off, fully believing that I'm going to win the face-off. Yeah. It's that mix, and I think that mix is important. I don't know if it's like it's confidence, but belief and confidence, but it's corralled and it doesn't like realizing the magnitude of the situation for yourself. It like pulls you back to reality. It almost not humbles you, but like keeps you in check. So it's like confidence, but it's in check. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think it is humility, and I think that's what keeps you hungry. Like if you're like, oh, you know, I go from D2 to D1. Oh, I'm good. Like I made it. I reached my goal. But all of a sudden, you reached your goal, and you were still hungry for more. So it's
yeah. There was no reaching goals. There was like a checklist, and it was like start on this team, make this team, start on this team, be the best one in the game, and it was be the best one in the league, and like. The final check on the goal that I never got to was, you know, being an MLL All-Star or playing on Team USA. And that sounds absolutely absurd and ridiculous, but that was definitely the goal.
Yeah,
never got there. But, you know what I mean? Those are unmet goals, but they were definitely on the paper.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I would assume they were. I really would. And there's a quote that what you're saying makes me think of, and it's about like when a lot of people talk about your work ethic and you want to work hard, you know, like to become comfortable, like get comfortable being uncomfortable. I read a quote that just says like you're working hard not to get comfortable, but to increase your work capacity. So it's like what you said before. It's like everything was building on top of itself. Every experience, every rep in the weight room, every sprint I took, like it was helping the next one. It was helping the next one. So just hearing you talk makes me think of that quote because you weren't looking to be comfortable. You were looking to increase your work capacity.
Yeah, and every time something becomes comfortable, you have to step to the next level where you're uncomfortable again. And then that gets comfortable, and and like you said, increasing your capacity to withstand discomfort. You can't just do it a little bit. It's got to always be increasing to really go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean that's a special mindset. Definitely is, but it's incredible. It's incredible. So, tell me about. I'm curious if, let's say you're in a game. It doesn't matter what level you're obviously a competitor and you work your ass off, but you're in a game and things aren't going your way. Is there anything you learned over time to do, whether to like calm yourself down, or did you have somebody on a sideline that would give you some tips and say, hey, man, this is what I'm seeing, or a relationship with your wingmen? Like, what was your process for stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's like being a problem solver and being able to like take a deep breath and recognize where you're at and what's going on objectively, and like manage your emotions and not let your emotions get out of control. So taking a breath, relaxing, looking at the situation objectively, figuring out what's going wrong. Can we figure out why it's going wrong? Can we figure out a modification to our plan?
Yep.
And can we then go out and test that plan? And then whether it works or it doesn't work, you do the same thing again and again and again and again for infinity. You know what I mean?
So it becomes like an experiment.
Yeah.
You're just experimenting.
Yeah.
With the best knowledge in that moment to your ability.
Yeah. What's going on out there? Hey, take a deep breath. Don't get out of control. Maintain your emotions. Okay. What's going on out there? He's beating me to the clamp. Okay. Can I beat him to the clamp with a different, with a different technique or skill? No. Okay. What can we do? What else can we do then? Okay. Let's go try that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's being able to like leave yourself or leave the situation, look down from above.
Yeah.
Evaluate, and come up with a plan, and then go try to execute that new plan.
Now, is that something you
not
learned
letting
and worked
yourself
on?
Spin out of control emotionally, I think is the number one factor. It's like what I tell the kids is like staying calm in chaos.
Yeah.
It's like when everything is going crazy and you're down 2 goals and you kind of have an injury like that's like nagging you, and your coach just said something to you that pisses you off, and you're thinking all over the place. You can let that spin further out of control, or you can immediately right there, like, still step in and put your best, like, product onto the field.
Right, whatever your
being
best
able
is for
to
that
do
moment.
that, I think, is like a really big deal.
That's huge. And I think that's a big deal in any form of life, really, any job, any situation in life. So.
Well, that's that quote. Like, well, if you can do one thing well, you can do anything well. And I think like all of those lacrosse situations then transferred over to jiu-jitsu, which was like the next phase.
Okay.
And then now it's transferred over into like, owning the business and training the athletes.
Yeah.
It's like, can you transfer those skills developed on the field into other areas of your life? And that's where I think like the real like end result and end game or payoff is. And that's kind of like where we're at now.
Right. Will it translate? Yeah. I mean, and within athletics, people talk about like, oh, he's a really good basketball player. He's probably good on the lacrosse field. Like a lot of times that's true, but there's a lot of kids, those skills don't translate. Because a lot of it is like physical technique or, just the physicality. I think really what you're really zeroing in on is it's the mental and the emotional skills that if they translate from a lacrosse field into something else, then you will be good at anything, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's cool. So
problem-solving skills, emotional management, all of those things. If you could pull those things from the athletic field,
right,
then you could bring it on. You could bring it onto the court. You could bring it into the classroom. You could bring it into, the first job you get, the relationships you have after that, etc.
Yeah, no doubt. I get it. Makes a lot of sense. So you quickly mentioned jiu-jitsu. Is that a big part of your life? Is that something that you...
Yeah, it was like the same mindset I took towards lacrosse my whole life, and how that was like the big goals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of, once the MLL was done, I ended up getting cut from like 3 MLL teams all in a matter of like 6 months, and that's when I realized like, all right, time to get some. So I ended up, I always had like this, I always thought like a face-off in lacrosse was like a little miniature wrestling match. And I always like looked at it like that.
Yeah.
Like from like a mindset point of
It's
view. I
definitely
thought
the
it was
game.
pretty
It's
cool.
definitely
Like
a
two
game
guys
within the
battling
game.
it out.
Yeah.
And so I was always like obsessed with jiu-jitsu and the UFC. And so always being told as an athlete, it was like, I think that a common theme, I've said it before, but was that I was slow or soft. And I always felt like people thought I was soft as an athlete. And I always like wanted to prove to myself that I was not soft. And so what better way to test yourself and see whether or not you're soft than put yourself on a mat with somebody who is trying to choke you or break your arm or, break your leg or do something like that. And what are you going to do when you're in that situation where it's just you and the other guy out on the mat and he's trained to do that to you, but you're trained to do that to him, and let's see what happens. So after
all you've been through in lacrosse, you were still telling yourself, people think I'm soft, or there's a
yeah, man.
Yeah.
At every level, I thought everybody on the team, everybody we played against, every coach we played against in the scouting report, even the coaches that coached me out, I just always thought that everyone thought I was soft. Wow. And I just wanted to prove that I wasn't.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
I don't know why, but that was a thought in my head the whole way up.
Well, it sounds like that was the defining moment in your life when a middle school coach basically told you were soft.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
It seems like that defined the rest of your journey, probably to this day, which is really cool that it fueled you and motivated you instead of the opposite. So, all right. So that's cool. So now you own and operate 360 Athletics, and that's a focus on strength and conditioning, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about jiu-jitsu for just one second, because I think that allowed me to put into the world, or put into like myself, the lessons that I was like grasping from lacrosse. But lacrosse is like a team sport, and jiu-jitsu, being out on the mat, and like the way you have to like manage your emotions and stay calm, and like the mental side of jiu-jitsu is extremely like deep. And so that experience, it was like it's been 10 plus years that I've been doing it. I've had over 100 competitive jiu-jitsu matches, and so I think that highlighting, putting yourself in situations where you need to problem solve extremely fast, stay calm, and all that stuff we talked about just a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Putting
yourself in the realest form of that you can, has definitely made me now, 10 years later, in my life, be able to relax, stay calm. There's nothing that like riles me up or gets my emotions going. I'm able to maintain my cool much better than I could when I was like a lacrosse player, and my emotions would absolutely spin out of control. But jiu-jitsu has allowed me to get all that under control, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's really cool. So really, if you look at it, let's say you start like in middle school lacrosse, up through high school, up to Division II, Division I, MLL. Obviously, as you advance to to the next level, kids are better. The skills are better, bigger, faster, stronger. Like all that's true. But when we're talking about the really important skills, the mental and emotional skills that you keep touching on, like if you look at it through time and space, it's like, all right, now that I'm in high school, like I gotta, like you were saying, like your mental checklist, you're in the face-off X and you got to talk yourself down. You got to go through it. Like at each level, it's like, well, you have less time to do that, right? And then jiu-jitsu being, I mean, we're talking fractions of seconds to have like fractions of seconds worth of time to go through everything you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's actually a great point. Yeah.
So it's not just that. Yeah, right. So it's not just that they're just.
You feel the guy's arm coming around your neck, and you've got seconds before you're about to pass out. You have to figure out a way out.
Right. So again, like to me, I look at it like you've been preparing yourself for that. Yeah, the physical, technical stuff, you had to rep out and figure it out. But those mental and emotional skills, like you were already working on them. In my mind, and based on what you're saying, you were already working on them, and then you found yourself attracted to jiu-jitsu, and then you went after it, just like you did everything else. That's really cool.
It's been like a 20-year like graduated exposure therapy to like mindset, physical combination training.
Sure.
And it's like I've been able to have like none of the steps were too big that it collapsed me. It was like the perfect build up as you stepped and stepped and stepped and kept going up these hills. But like every step was like a big jump.
Yep.
But it was like doable.
Yeah.
And I think that's important now working with the kids that I train and putting them in a position to like stretch themselves and push themselves.
Yep.
But making it that they're pushing themselves to something that's just outside their reach.
Sure.
But that they're capable of reaching if they dedicate themselves and push themselves and focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it
100%.
can't be so easy, and then they get this like, you know, they don't end up improving. But it can't be so hard and so far that it either makes them quit, they
Right.
give up, or they fail.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like during these workouts and these training sessions and these training programs, that's kind of the goal is to give them this graduated exposure to progressively harder things that force them to adapt and force them to improve and force them to go
Yeah.
where they want to end up going.
That makes a lot of sense. And to me, that would be the main thing I'd look for. Let's say, you know, to get my son a strength and conditioning coach. The fact that, like, obviously, you know, like people in that situation, they need the knowledge, they need, you know, all the technicalities, but it really comes down to someone who's confident enough in their own ability that says, okay, well, I can push this kid to this level just outside their threshold, but then when they hit that, it's like a drug. It's like a burst of adrenaline. It's like a huge victory, right? I mean,
you got to see it like on their faces, like, holy crap, I didn't think I could do that.
Right.
And then it's like, and then you say to them like, oh, what else do you think you could do that you don't think you could do?
Yeah,
Let's
right.
figure it out.
Let's not stop there. Let's find the next hurdle. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then you keep building on it. That's like there's like a quote in strength and conditioning. It's like, what's the number one attribute you could build in the weight room? And it's like strength, speed, power. And it's like, no, confidence.
Yeah.
Because when you walk in and there's a bar that you can't lift, and then months later, that same bar that you couldn't even think about lifting, now you can lift it. Or there's a box that you couldn't jump on, and now you can jump on it.
Yeah.
There's an absolute level of confidence that you get from being able to do things that you formerly could not do. It's a pretty cool feeling that you build inside of yourself, and you realize you can do things you didn't think you could do.
Yeah, and that weight room, is really like one of a few places on earth that is truly based on merit. It's like you can do it or you can't, and like there's no.
If you do the work, you are rewarded with improvement, in almost no matter what. It's not like biased towards like.
Right. There's no making decisions. There's no one telling you you're starting, you're not starting. It's really you and the weight, which is really cool. So, all right. So that was awesome. You gave us a ton of information that's going to be extremely helpful to a lot of people. But what else do you want people to know about? Where can they find you? How can they look you up?
I put stuff out every day on Instagram. The handle is @360athletics. Hopefully there's some stuff on there, you know, training wise, exercises that might help you out. And if you have any questions, you know, feel free to message me on there. That's where I am pretty much every day.
Okay. Great.
But that's all.
Sounds good. Well, this was awesome. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for contributing.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, Joe. We'll talk soon.
All right, see you.